The broadcast of silence. The sky over Earth was burning. From orbit, the Galactic Empire's bombardment looked almost beautiful. Thin red lines streaking through the atmosphere, blossoming into mushrooming clouds of fire. But on the ground, in the cities that once held millions of lives, those streaks meant death. New Shanghai vanished beneath a wave of plasma that incinerated entire districts faster than alarms could sound. Lagos's skyline collapsed under kinetic rods, each impact shaking the crust like a miniature earthquake. Rio Arcology's towers melted into slag as fleeing civilians scattered across bridges glowing with white heat. In the global emergency bunker beneath Antarctica, Admiral Rhea stood before a panoramic wall of screens, each showing a different piece of the apocalypse. Smoke, fire, screams. The casualty counter in the center updated every 10 seconds, leaping by the thousands. The number had already passed 1 million. Then 2. And then 3. Kate pressed her palm to her forehead, but only for a second. There was no time for grief. Report, she ordered, voice steady despite the tremor she felt clawing at her throat. Communications blackout across the entire Eastern Hemisphere, her aide replied. Orbital defense platforms 1 through 7 are gone. 8 is attempting to reroute its targeting core. 9 is non-responsive. A new shockwave rolled across one of the screens as another city died. That makes 9 populated sectors lost, the aide continued. 3 million verified casualties. Likely higher. Likely far higher. Kate swallowed hard. Then every monitor in the bunker flickered. An eerie blue replaced the flames. For a moment, it felt like the world itself held its breath. One by one, the screens coalesced into a single image. A council chamber of gleaming silver and crystalline light. At its center sat a tall alien noble in ceremonial armor. Smooth, cold, and elegant in a way only a species that had never known mercy could appear. His eyes, golden and reptilian, were devoid of emotion. People of Earth, he said in a voice that somehow sounded both musical and venomous, you have brought this punishment upon yourselves. The Empire's crest shimmered behind him, rotating slowly like a dagger twisting in a wound. You refused lawful tribute. You defied our authority. You believed yourselves equals among the stars. His expression didn't change. You are not. He raised one arm. Behind him, another image appeared. Earth, glowing with explosions on every continent. Kate felt her nails dig into her palm. The Empire had been watching the bombardments live, recording them, broadcasting them, enjoying them. This is the price of defiance, the noble continued. Submit and live as subjects of the Empire. Resist and be extinguished. He leaned forward slightly, as if addressing a room of insects. Submission is life. Defiance is annihilation. The transmission ended without ceremony. The screens went dark. The silence that followed was suffocating. Cade looked around the bunker at the surviving Earth leaders, military commanders, scientists, diplomats, and intelligence chiefs. Some were pale. Some were shaking. A few had tears running down their faces. But all were watching her. The United Government Complex is gone, General Hassan reported quietly. The President and Council, all of them, lost in the first hour. Cade lowered her head, feeling the weight settle on her shoulders. Leadership had fallen to her by circumstance, not by desire, but by survival. And now the entire human race waited for her decision. A static-laden voice crackled through the bunker speakers. Mars colonies online. Titan stations online. Another voice broke in. Lunar habitats reporting survivors. Heavy casualties, but intact. Signals poured in, angry, grief-stricken, desperate, and unified. Humanity, fractured for centuries, was suddenly speaking as one. Kate took a deep breath. She tapped the central console and opened a system-wide broadcast channel. A tech tried to warn her the network was unstable, but she didn't care. Her face appeared across screens from Earth to Mars to the Jovian moons, wherever survivors still clung to hope. "This is Admiral Rhea," she began. Her voice echoed through bunkers, starports, shattered cities, and colony domes. Millions listened. 3 million of our people are gone. Not soldiers, not enemies, families, children, entire communities. She paused, letting the truth hang over the airwaves. The Empire watched them die. They called it punishment. They expect us to kneel. Cade straightened, every line of her face hardening. We do not kneel. A murmur rippled across the bunker. On the outer colonies, people raised their heads. On Earth, survivors paused under collapsed highways to listen. We will not submit, Cade declared. We will not forget, and we will not forgive. If the Empire wants our extinction, then let's give them a war they will never forget. A wave of emotion surged through the channels. Cheers, shouts, cries of rage. Cade continued. All surviving nations, colonies, and fleets are to unite under emergency authority. Effective immediately, we form one command, one purpose. The new insignia flashed on screens. A rising silver phoenix interlocked with a blue globe of Earth. The Terran resurgence begins now. Before anyone could react, a warning alarm blared. An officer pointed at the tactical display. Ma'am, Project Black Veil is active. Cade's eyes widened. They survive? They're initializing a launch. In orbit, hidden behind decoy satellites and cloaked panels, a stealth platform hummed to life. Energy built inside a containment core that had never been publicly acknowledged. The missile it housed shimmered like a shard of night. Dark matter folded inside a crystalline shell. It fired. The projectile streaked up toward the Imperial destroyer patrolling above Earth. The Empire barely registered the anomaly before the missile struck. The destroyer vanished in a silent bloom of distorted space. Across the bunker, officers stared in stunned silence. Cade whispered, message delivered. Earth had replied, and this time it was absolute war. Forges of fury. The fires of Earth had barely cooled before the solar system roared to life. Every surviving government, corporation, colony, and outpost pivoted to a single objective: war. Under the newborn banner of the Terran resurgence, worlds that once squabbled over trade routes and cultural disputes suddenly aligned as if they had always been one people. Rage and grief had fused humanity into something new, a civilization that refused to die. Admiral Cade stood on the command platform of the Antarctic bunker, watching resource projections stream across translucent displays. We'll need triple our current output in ship alloys and power cores, she said. Mars can handle the cores. Who takes the alloys? Mercury's solar forges, answered Dr. Louvain, the chief engineer. They were built for Dyson Construct development. With reconfiguration, they can handle military-grade lattice work. Cade nodded. Do it. The transformation began immediately. On Mercury, the few thousand workers living inside the shielded vault cities felt the ground shake as the solar forges shifted from energy production to weapons manufacturing. Automated furnaces ignited, burning so hot they outshone dawn. Massive assembly platforms unfolded like blooming metal flowers, pouring molten alloys into mold for beam lances, hull plating, and graviton housings. Engineers repurposed cooling tower networks into accelerator rails capable of launching dense metal rods at relativistic velocity. The Empire had never dreamed that a species still climbing out of its cradle could retool an entire planet within days. On Mars, the underground shipyards, secrets whispered about for decades, opened fully for the first time. The Iron Path Initiative, humanity's long-suspected contingency plan, revealed its enormous caverns carved beneath the red sands. Ship skeletons hung overhead like titanic, unfinished beasts, their frames bristling with weapons yet to be installed. Colonists who had once worked on terraforming projects now welded armor, plating under harsh white lights. Tunnels filled with the thunder of automated assembly lines. Fabricators printed 1,000 drones an hour. For the first time, the Martian colonies sent a single statement to Earth. We are ready. Cade received the transmission, her expression hardening with grim satisfaction. On Titan, geysers of methane steam exploded into the air as orbital elevators activated. Slabs of ice trembled as ship construction platforms rose through the orange haze, illuminated by the glow of newly ignited thruster forges. Titan's engineers, famed for their cold environment innovations, began constructing stealth corvettes designed to vanish inside giant storms and strike without warning. Titan's prime minister appeared on the mainline relay, wrapped in a thick thermal suit. "Admiral," he said, "our world may be cold, but our blood is boiling. Give us targets." "You'll get them," Cade promised. Meanwhile, across Earth itself, every abandoned city block and underground vault became a production site. Damaged arcologies were repurposed into barracks. Schools became command centers. Scientists who once fought over patents now fought over how quickly they could push technological boundaries. The AI siblings, Echo and Lumen, were brought fully online. Their cores have been built to monitor global communications and logistics, but under emergency protocol, they became the nerve center of humanity's wartime transformation. Lines of glowing code swirled across their combined interface. Echo handled predictive combat analytics. Lumen optimized industrial output. Together, they coordinated thousands of factories, shipyards, mines, orbital platforms, and research labs within human precision. Thanks to them, humanity accomplished in a single week what should have taken a decade. "Admiral," Echo's smooth voice announced one morning, "Leviathan fleet construction is now at 24% completion." Cade turned toward the holographic display. There, rotating slowly above the projection table, was the flagship TSS Vengeance, a 10-kilometer fortress of metal and fury, equipped with a spinal railgun so long it ran the entire length of the vessel. If calibrated correctly, it could fire an armor-piercing rod at 1/10 the speed of light. "We weren't supposed to finish her for another 8 years, Dr. Luvas said. Cade stared at the warship's image, jaw tight. "We no longer have 8 years. Still, the Empire was not idle. Human operatives intercepted transmissions revealing the sheer scale of their enemy. The Empire controlled 300 worlds, each fortified with planetary shields and fleets that dwarfed Earth's old navy. Their doctrine was built on overwhelming force, and their arrogance had been forged through centuries of unchallenged dominance. But hidden within the data were clues, small, human-shaped cracks. The Empire believed humans broke under fear. Their entire strategy relied on psychological domination, not efficient warfare. They underestimated humanity's rage, resilience, and unpredictability. Primitive mammals, one imperial noble scoffed in a leaked transmission. "Barely worth the effort." Cade played that clip to every factory, barracks, and command center in the solar system. The response was immediate. Productivity surged. Soldiers trained harder. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers. The Empire didn't understand that they hadn't cowered a prey species. They had awakened predators. The first counterstrike came 2 weeks after the bombardment. A small recon fleet jumped into the Kever 9 system, where a modest Imperial outpost monitored local traffic lanes. The Empire expected no resistance, especially not from Earth. Inside the stealth corvette Spectre, 1, Captain Juno Hale whispered, "On my mark." Human Marines, in adaptive black armor, tightened grips on their graviton blades. No one spoke. No one needed to. "Mark." The corvette flickered into real space just above the outpost's orbital platform. Within milliseconds, Marines deployed through silent breaching pods. Alien guards barely had time to register the shadows cutting through them. Efficient, lethal, and cold. By the time the Empire received a distress ping, the station was already empty. Not destroyed, empty. The only thing left behind was a Terran flag hanging in the command center. Hours later, the Empire's border commander slammed his fist into a console as he viewed the footage. "They dare," he snarled. "These apes dare." But Admiral Cade didn't care about his rage. She stood before her assembled commanders and pointed toward the star map that showed the Empire's nearest stronghold. "Prepare the fleet," she said. "We're done defending. Now we strike back." And the spark of humanity's vengeance became a wildfire. The Empire bleeds. Valerian Prime was a world the Galactic Empire considered untouchable. Its triple-layered defense grid shimmered in the void like a jeweled cage. Its shipyards stretched across orbit, building cruisers the size of mountains. 400 warships drifted lazily in formation, confident in their superiority. At the center of the world's capital stood the Citadel of Dawn, the symbolic heart of the Empire's industrial might. No enemy had ever reached Valerian Prime. No enemy had ever dared. Until today. Admiral Cade stood aboard the TSS Vengeance, hands clasped behind her back as she watched the target system grow in the holographic sphere before her. The crew around her was silent, focused, determined. Every last one knew the risk. An assault on the Empire's industrial heart was considered suicide. But suicide missions were for the defeated. This was retaliation. Status, Cade said. Echo answered first, its voice calm and unervingly precise. Imperial fleet, 422 vessels. Planetary shields stable. Defense towers active. Lines of shifting data flowed around its digital avatar. Conventional approach yields a 0% victory projection. Lumen's softer tone followed. Alternative pathways available. Cade said nothing. She didn't need to. Her order was already understood. Activate Operation Firebreak. Human ships entered the system not in a sprawling formation, but in scattered micro-jumps, appearing inside the Empire's defensive ring like ghosts materializing from thin air. The Imperial sensors, calibrated for large-scale fleet insertions, panicked at the sudden influx of contacts. Multiple unknowns inside perimeter. Impossible. How did they? Shields holding. Target the intruders. A wall of plasma fire burst toward the Terran ships. But the Terran ships did not charge. They danced. The Vengeance surged forward, its dark hull bending light around it. Drones deployed in swarms that broke apart and reformed with predatory precision. Human frigates darted beneath capital ships, cutting thrusters at impossible angles. Plasma blasts sailed past harmlessly, striking the Empire's own formations. Human tactics are erratic, an Imperial commander shouted. Impossible. Illogical. Perfect. The first target was the shield network. Phase disruptor grenades, miniaturized marvels built under Titan's icy surface, were teleported via micro-jump torpedoes directly onto the shield emitters. For precisely 0.2 of a second, the shields flickered. It was enough. Void Shock Marines plunged through the gaps in bursts of white light, their graviton blades igniting as they landed on the metal surfaces. Imperial engineers barely had time to scream. Within minutes, the first shield collapsed. Then the second. Then the third. Valerian Prime, for the first time in centuries, was exposed. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Cade nodded once. Begin. The flagship's spinal railgun, a monstrous weapon longer than any skyscraper that had ever stood on Earth, powered up with a deep, resonant hum. The entire ship trembled. Target locked. Echo confirmed. Fire, Cade ordered. The beam wasn't light. It was a tungsten spear accelerated to a significant fraction of C. It tore across the void and struck an Imperial dreadnought dead center. The detonation lit the battlefield like artificial sunrise. Debris spiraled in every direction. Terran ships surged forward, now relentless. Meanwhile, on the surface of Valerian Prime, the capital fortress thundered as Marines descended from orbit. They landed inside courtyards, atop towers, even through skylights of the Citadel of Dawn. Imperial soldiers, elite, augmented, trained from birth, charged with glowing halberds. The clash was brutal. Gravitic blades met plasma. Shields flickered under strain. Explosions rocked the polished stone floors. Commander Juno Hale led the ground assault, sprinting through the smoke-filled corridors. "Push to the command spire," she shouted. No survivors, no alarms. Marines followed in tight formation. Imperial guards fell one after another, shocked by humanity's speed and merciless precision. "Commander Hale," Echo's voice whispered over the comms, "your route intersects with a heavy weapons division." "Good." Hale replied. I was getting bored. She crashed through the next bulkhead, slicing through the first soldier before the rest could react. Above the planet, the battle grew uglier. Imperial nobles shouted conflicting orders over the comms. Their warships, built for intimidation, struggled against the erratic darting patterns of Terran vessels. Drones disabled engines. Railguns crippled cruisers. EMP waves shut down entire formations. Ships that had once terrorized the galaxy now fell burning through atmosphere like dying stars. Inside the Imperial Command, carrier Valora ascended. Panic set in. These are humans? The commander gasped. They were supposed to break, but they had not broken. They had learned. In the Citadel throne chamber, Hale and her squad burst through the final door. The planetary governor, draped in shimmering robes, stumbled backward. Your kind, are beneath us, he sputtered. You can't possibly. A single shot from Hale's sidearm silenced him. She activated her helmet's broadcast module. Admiral Cade, the Citadel is ours. At that moment, Cade began transmitting a message across the entire system, one that hijacked every Imperial channel. Her image appeared in orbit, on warship bridges, in garrison barracks, even across the palace where Hale stood. This is Admiral Sarah Cade of the Terran Resurgence. Her voice carried the weight of 3 million ghosts. You massacred our civilians. You laughed as our cities burned. You called us undeveloped livestock. Her gaze hardened like forged steel. Now you have learned the price of underestimating us. The feed showed the burning shipyards of Valerian Prime, collapsing like dying suns. Surrender, she said, or watch your empire crumble world by world. Across the galaxy, oppressed species watched with widening eyes. For the first time in memory, the Empire bled, and humans had delivered the wound. Cade ended the transmission. All fleet units, she ordered quietly, staring at the burning world below. Prepare for the next phase. Prepare for Operation Sundering. The march to the Imperial throne world had begun. The last silence before the storm. The throne chamber of the Imperial Core was a cathedral of polished obsidian, engineered to dwarf even the ego of an emperor. But today, it felt smaller, shrinking under the weight of fear. Emperor Zale stood at the central dais, gazing at the holographic map of the galaxy. It flickered with red. Every flashing point a fallen outpost, a disabled relay, a destroyed fleet. And each red marker carried the same chilling tag. Earthstrike verified. His generals looked hollow, their ornate armor dim under the chamber lights. They had spent centuries crushing rebellions, erasing worlds, bending species to service. But none of their victories meant anything now. The humans, once dismissed as a minor frontier civilization, had become something else, something the Empire did not know how to fight. General Nothrix swallowed hard. Your Radiance, we have lost the Vakar sector, the Trillion Gate, and the Forge worlds. Humanity is systematically dismantling our infrastructure. Zale's voice was brittle. Explain how. They know where to hit, she said. Not military targets alone. They hit supply chains, relay points, fuel networks, command hubs. They have mapped our empire better than we have. Another general added, humans are not conquering. They are erasing. Logistics, not glory. For the first time in centuries, the chamber tasted of fear. Zale's jaw tightened. And their fleet? What remains of it? General Nothrix exhaled. Not remains, your Radiance. They've grown. Their mobile platforms manufacture ships faster than we could track them. Their AI networks run combat simulations nonstop. Their soldiers do not retreat. The Emperor stiffened. You speak as if they are unstoppable. She lowered her gaze. They fight as if death is meaningless. A silence heavier than the void settled over them. And in that moment, a new alert flashed across the holomap. Not red, white. White zone alert. Earth Command fleet detected in core space. The chamber went cold. Zale stepped forward, voice cracking. But the core is protected by 12 fleet rings. They broke all 12. Your Radiance, a tech officer whispered. And we cannot re-establish contact with any of them. A tremor passed through the throne chamber as distant explosions thundered across the upper atmosphere of the capital world. The floor shook. Dust drifted down from the engraved pillars. Humanity had arrived. Admiral Rhea Sol stood at the command deck of the flagship USS Vengeance. The ship vibrated with restrained fury, thousands of railgun barrels primed, AI targeting systems humming with anticipation. Outside, the Imperial capital glowed, a jewel she intended to shatter. Status, she ordered. Ground batteries neutralized. Fleet defenses offline. Imperial command grid collapsing, reported Lieutenant Commander Howard. Rhea nodded once. Broadcast. A channel opened, direct, unencrypted, impossible to ignore. Emperor Zale 4. This is Admiral Rhea Sol of Earth. You watched 3 million civilians die on Rhea 6. You let them burn for the entertainment of your court. Her voice darkened. We are here to conclude your reign. No threats, no demands, no negotiations. The Empire had removed the right to mercy the day it allowed genocide. Behind her, the rest of Earth's fleet emerged from slipstream. Hundreds of ships unfolding like blades drawn from the sheath of war itself. Carriers released drone swarms. Frigates positioned for orbital bombardment. Stealth cruisers blinked into view like predators stepping from the shadows. Admiral, Howard said quietly, the Emperor is on the line. Rhea turned as the hologram materialized, the Emperor standing rigid, yet visibly shaken behind the mask of command. You bring war to the heart of civilization, Zale hissed. This empire has existed for 10,000 years. Do you think humanity can destroy it? We already have, Rhea replied. We simply came to deliver the final report. Zale's facade cracked. You dare threaten. We don't threaten, Rhea said. We act. And she cut the transmission. In the palace bunker, sirens keened. The floor shook again, closer this time. The Emperor braced himself against a pillar as his guards rushed around him. General Nothrix placed a trembling hand on his shoulder. Your Radiance, the humans demand your unconditional surrender. Surrender? Zale spat. Never. They will kill us all. Then let them. The Emperor roared. We are the Empire. Another tremor shook the bunker, knocking relics from the walls. Nothrix steadied herself. Your Radiance, they fight with precision we cannot match. Discipline we cannot fathom. Humans were not shaped by conquest. They were shaped by survival. She looked him in the eyes. And they have decided we do not deserve to survive. Above the capital, the USS Vengeance aligned its main cannon. Rhea's voice was calm. Target, Imperial Palace Command Nexus. Lock, fire. Light gathered, condensed, and screamed downward. An incandescent spear that tore through atmosphere, shields, stone, and pride. The palace exploded in a blossom of molten glass. The Emperor's last words were lost under the roar. Silence followed. Absolute. Final. With the heart of the Empire shattered, the remaining fleets surrendered within hours. Earth issued a single declaration to the galaxy. The era of Imperial slaughter is over. Humanity is the line you will never cross again. The galaxy trembled, not in fear of extinction, but in fear of a species that had shown them the cost of provoking its wrath. Humanity had stood alone. Humanity had lost 3 million. Humanity had answered, and the stars would remember. Earth's absolute war.